There are so many factors that contribute to it. Health and mental health problems, discharges from the criminal justice system and the foster care system, evictions, lack of employment. There are a whole host of very significant contributing factors. So this initiative is taking seriously that complexity and looking not just at what we do in the homeless services system, which has been a limitation of what we've done in the past, but looking seriously at the mainstream service delivery system. For every dollar Los Angeles County spends on explicit homeless services, we spend numerous dollars in our mainstream service delivery system, in public benefits, in health, mental health, and substance use disorder treatment, and in incarceration costs and other costs in the criminal justice system. So we're looking globally at that wide range of engagement with homeless families and individuals to figure out how can we address this problem in a creative, innovative, and holistic manner with our partners in the cities and outside of government.
And I just 2 points on that. One is that I totally agree. I think we have to take advantage of these windows of opportunity to make some real fundamental advances and progress in this policy area. And they're rare, and they're here. You hear it from the county side, on the city side, and I must add, we were just joined by my colleague on Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo, who chairs the Housing Committee, which is critical to UCLA alum as well, which is critical to this piece. And also to add on the diversion from our hospital, well, our jails, but our hospitals as well. When people get released, they should have a plan in place as to how we treat them and not just release them back into the street. And those types of issues are now being addressed and heard about for the first time in a very long time. When you're hearing it from the district attorney's office that they want these diversion programs along with the sheriff, and it's a very good to hear that as well. And last but not least, not only have we addressed the issue of not having enough affordable housing, mental health, lack of attention by local government, but also, even if it's been increasing, it's a lot more visible because of the litigation the city has been involved with that prohibits us from taking down encampments. And to me, or to many other folks, majority would agree that no one should be allowed to sleep on our streets. It's not healthy for them, it's not healthy for our local communities, but we have litigation, our hands have been tied on our ability to move people along from the streets and get them the help they need. Now, there is a big question about some people, whether they want the help or not, whether they want to go to a shelter, whether they want those part of services. There's case law that says we cannot commit people under certain circumstances, so that may be complicated, but we are working to change our own local ordinance, given the litigation that has occurred, to be able to clean up more of the encampments, get social service providers out there first to ask them if they need assistance, and then start addressing these encampments, because that alone, the issue has become a lot more visible than we've seen else.
And you have a particular concern because you were the councilman who's overseen since we're downtown Los Angeles, 10 years ago there were 10,000 people down here, now there are 70,000. You actually have supermarkets open for the first time since World War II, and you have a growing population. I talked with you just yesterday. I talked to the head of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, said they've seen a dramatic change over the past 6 months. They think it's Prop 47, and there are people that are frightened. There's a group of families that live downtown that have told them we're leaving if something doesn't happen, because we've seen a dramatic increase, not just in the homeless, but the number of mentally ill and addicted.
And with all the revitalization that we're seeing downtown, and we're practically building a city within the city, you mentioned the numbers of the new residents that are moving down here. The footprint of Skid Row is getting smaller because of that revitalization. Buildings and streets and everything else around Skid Row, that people are beginning to live in them, there's more lighting, so the footprint itself as no man's land for decades. You see the Skid Row footprint getting smaller, while at the same time, we keep literally dumping more homeless individuals in that area. So you have more people, less space, and they're beginning, because it's so violent down there, some folks just don't want to spend any time, that they start flowing out to the rest of downtown, where it's gone to a situation where you see that now, a number of people who are moving here down for the first time, which is a great thing, because every great city needs a great downtown. And this is the economic engine of the region. We need to support that. We need to support more people living here, the long-term sustainability of this revitalization. We need to support more job growth in the area. But at the same time, none of this will continue to prosper unless we deal with issues of homelessness.
For backup, if people don't know what Prop 47 was, I was talking to somebody earlier about it, because you quoted Sheriff Jim McDonald. He has said that this was the law of unintended consequences. It's kicked in a big way, and it's involved homelessness. The DA of San Francisco, who is in favor of this ballot measure, now says it's a disaster. What this did was that it made every drug a misdemeanor, pretty much. Methamphetamine, it's all a misdemeanor. If there's a break-in of $950 or less, that's a misdemeanor. So the sheriff is saying, and I believe the chief is saying as well, we have seen the number of people going into rehab clinics and counseling drop by 60%, because there's no reason to do it if you're not going to be arrested or not serve any jail time. So whereas you're trying to deal with homeless, we're starting to see through statute, a ballot measure, which some might call policy by bumper sticker, exacerbate the problem. You can spend as much money as you want on this, but as long as the state is, and by law, we are putting more people on the street without the help they need and without the resources they need, this problem, we're going to be talking about this over the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Let me comment on the issue of substance abuse treatment, which relates to sort of both of the most recent comments, because I think it illustrates the opportunity in the current moment. Historically, the funding available for substance abuse treatment through the county's Department of Public Health was restricted. It was a fixed amount of money that we received every year. Today, with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and just recently federal approval of California's what's called the drug Medi-Cal waiver, we now have the ability fiscally to provide substance abuse treatment on demand in Los Angeles County to every person on Medi-Cal. And again, virtually every low-income person in LA County is eligible to Medi-Cal, except for undocumented immigrants. And virtually every homeless person, therefore, is eligible to full-scope Medi-Cal. So we don't have the physical capacity to take full advantage today of that fiscal resource, but we can imagine a time a year or two from now where a person with a substance abuse problem exiting county jail, where every single person exiting county jail who wants substance abuse treatment will be able to get it when they exit the jail. And if they're homeless, they'll be able to get residential substance abuse treatment for 6 months. And before they exit, fully funded by the state and federal government, and before they exit that residential substance abuse treatment, there will be an opportunity, if they're disabled and they're eligible for SSI, supplemental security income, to try to assist them secure that. And if they're able to work, which will be true for most people, to try to help them move on a path to employment. So this is really a game changer, because up to now, if you are homeless and a substance abuser and you're ready to come out of county jail, you are out on the street because the local resources are so scarce to pay for housing for that population. And it's really important to see that, because historically local government, the county and the cities, have not had a primary responsibility to pay for subsidized housing with their own resources for homeless or low-income families and individuals. It's been a federal responsibility, and the level of federal subsidies for the population that qualifies and needs those subsidies in Los Angeles County is extraordinarily low. So that's the challenge we face, and whether it's $100 million one time or $100 million annually, it's still quite a small amount relative to the unmet need. So critical to our ability to reduce the number of homeless people is really comes down to two things. One, reducing the number of families and individuals who become homeless through eviction prevention and through reducing the number of people who are discharged into homelessness primarily from the county jail and from the foster care system and the juvenile probation system. And then secondly, increase the number of currently homeless families and individuals who have the ability to pay for their own rent, either through getting work where they can use their wages to pay for rent, just like almost everyone in this room does, or if they're disabled, qualifying for supplemental security income or veterans disability benefits that will provide them with the public dollars they can use to pay for their own rent. There is not the capacity in local dollars, city and county, to pay on a permanent basis.
Question, in all due respect, Bill, that it's not a homeless issue, it's a money issue. If you get the federal government, if you get the allocation, resources, another word for money, investment, another word for spending, that's what you need. But
It's just a matter of money.
Well, no, it's, as was mentioned earlier.
And that's not what I'm saying.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, if you're mentally ill, you lack the mental capacity to make a rational decision to seek help. Yes or no? True?
Not necessarily. I mean, most people, setting aside homeless people specifically, I mean, most people in Los Angeles County who have a mental illness voluntarily seek treatment. And the same is true for most homeless people if they have meaningful access to mental health treatment. The county just celebrated the reopening of the downtown mental health clinic on Skid Row. There's full utilization of the available mental health treatment at that facility by homeless individuals living on the streets of Skid Row. So though some mentally ill people deny that they have mental illness and resist treatment, that's not the majority by any means.
It's not just an issue of money. As I mentioned earlier, there's been neglect by both the city and the county having a comprehensive approach to this. It just, sitting here and listening to the conversation reminds me that the conversation we have in the city is very different from the conversation that happens at the county. The county is primarily responsible for social services. The city is responsible for clean streets and safe streets and some affordable housing. So when we're talking about addressing homelessness for the last few decades, or at least the 9 years I've been on city council, we rarely, if ever, addressed or talked to the county about how we're going to go about this together. And even now, as we're now finally paying attention, there's a county plan that's coming, there's a city council plan that's coming, there's a mayor plan that's coming, and we all have at least talked about how do we get all this together at some point to talk about holistically moving forward at the same time. On the city side, like I mentioned earlier, we've been reactionary to litigation. That's been our policy. And we haven't really been proactive in saying, do we really want to decentralize services from Skid Row? It's not good for the people who are in Skid Row, and quite frankly, if you're somebody who needs help, studies have shown that you better get out of that situation if you're in a community you're aware of. You have the support network nearby. And as we're moving forward to decentralization, is that a real policy? We may say it, but we're not implementing it, and we don't have no policy, no set direction. We rarely, if ever, talk to the county. Within the city, we, I think, need to build the infrastructure where we institutionalize our approach to homelessness and not just have an initiative by the existing mayor or the existing council every 5 years, every 10 years, that we have to do something about homelessness. But we have issues of traffic in the city. We have issues of housing, of law enforcement. We should treat homelessness the same way within the city. We need a Phil in the city of LA. There's one person appointed to that and is here consistently to address that remains here for a long time, and we build that capacity and that institutional knowledge, which is something we don't have. And the other big piece to this as well is LASA, which is a combination of various other local governments where we appoint people to sit on that and provides, it was originally created to provide the policy direction for the region. All it does now is it passes through federal monies that it receives and passes it out for different types of services, but it's not creating that overall policy direction and service delivery that we anticipated originally when it was created. That itself has to be looked at upon if it's doing that job now, and how do we now with the county, LASA, and the city government. So my answer is, it's much more than money. There's been a lot of neglect. We have to fix our infrastructure, our government approach to it, and also work with the hard-working stakeholders who've been out there for many, many years doing that.
You've got $100 million you want to commit. How are you going to, and my guess is that that's good news. Not sure we're going to get that. But what seems to be important, based on the conversations I've seen, is spending it in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we in the city have been working through the committee to create a strategic plan that we hope to adopt either December or January. And now we're going to hold off and work with the county as our plan comes out in February. And the idea was this: once we come out with a strategic plan, and there's recommendations within that strategic plan, we would attach a dollar amount to that. That's the direction we were moving in. And our council president came forward a couple of weeks ago and said, you know what, we got to do something now. Let's commit to $100 million so that when that plan comes out, the council would have already committed to at least have $100 million as a floor to work with to implement that strategic plan.
What's your worry?
My worry is that $100 million is too little, and that we do not coordinate with the county or LASA to work together as we move forward. And there's a big question, or some people say that we should end homelessness, but if you think about it, it's a continuous cycle. People come in and out of homelessness. So we not only need to, with all this excitement that we're doing right now, not only address the lack of attention we've been giving to the issue and really do something now, but think long-term about how we're going to continuously address homelessness, just like we've addressed any other issue.
Is the county thinking long-term, Bill?
Absolutely. We'll be putting in place an ongoing governance structure in the center of county government to sustain the implementation on a permanent basis of what comes out of this current planning process in the homeless initiative. And in addition to the one-time commitment of $50 million that the Board of Supervisors approved, we're not looking for that $50 million. This is $50 million in the bank that the Board of Supervisors approved on a one-time basis last week. We are working hard to identify ongoing funding that we can commit. Critical to that, though, is not only discretionary one-time funding, but we're looking at opportunities to take dollars the county is currently spending to treat homelessness to instead eliminate homelessness for those people. For example, the Department of Health Services is paying for permanent housing subsidies out of their own budget for homeless single adults who have very high costs in the health system. Those costs are the direct result of the fact that those people are homeless. So the Department of Health Services has made the decision to say, we'd rather pay to keep this person housed than to pay for their emergency room costs. And we think we can save money while doing it. So that's the sort of look we're taking throughout county government to increase the resources that we actually have available to confront the problem.
One last question for the council. Look at a timeline here. We're talking about an emergency. The public hears a crisis, they think of a flood, they think of an earthquake. What are the goals you need to achieve, and when do you need to achieve them?
The immediate thing is to pass the ordinance that will allow us to more quickly pick up our, clean up our encampments. Second is putting more social service providers out in the street immediately, which we start doing at the end of October. And third is to, at least on our side, on the city side, is to ensure that every contact, we implement a policy which we can start immediately, that every contact we have with homeless individuals, we put in the new database system called the coordinated entry system that tracks individuals, tracks their needs. So the librarian comes in touch with a homeless individual, firefighters, medical assistants, whatever it is, and we start getting a better sense of who these people are, what their needs are. Those are some of the immediate things we can do. Long term is what we're shooting for, and we'll see in the strategic plan when we see that intersect.
Well, God bless you both.
Phil Ansell from the Los Angeles County Homeless Initiative, who's Councilman José Huizar. Thank you very much, both of you.
If you're interested in this initiative, we have a website where all of our policy summits and supporting documents are posted, and the website is priorities.lacounty.gov/homeless.
And the councilman has a website too.
It is josehuizar.com, and we're going to post all our hearings and all the documents from our committee. That's a great idea to start posting that stuff, so we'll post it on my website.
And I believe we live in a participatory democracy, which means that it's your responsibility as well to participate. Go to those websites, and City Council just across the street. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Huizar. Thank you, Mr. Ansell. This was something different for our UCLA Day in Downtown reception, but we thought, again, because of the timeliness of the issue, we needed to innovate in our programming. One more innovation is coming up. On October 21st, our new policy magazine, it's called Blueprint, will host a discussion on economic inequality. The discussion will be held at the California Endowment, which is not far from here, and the discussion will include former Mayor Villaraigosa, Father Greg Boyle, and Dr. Robert Ross from the California Endowment. The event marks the release of the second issue of this public policy publication on ideas and leadership in Los Angeles. It's going to be moderated by the editor of Blueprint, Jim Newton, who is formerly with the LA Times. If you want to go to get more details about this event, it's www.blueprint.ucla.edu. All right, ready?